So, I want to be an assessor.
Hello,
And welcome to So You Want to Be an Assessor, our very first virtual podcast together. We did not, in fact, spend a whole 30 minutes trying to figure this out, but you know what? We got here. I'm your host, Caitlin Reeder, joined today with my co-host, Beth Shepard.
yes, so good to see you. We kind of look like we're in the same room because we have the same background. That's the joy of being virtual and having the same virtual background. But
yeah, we're here. We made
we're
it.
here. We're making this happen. We're making this
Our
happen.
first-
We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, our first one not in the same room. We will see how it goes. You know, we'll get better at this as things go on. We've already mastered the whole talking to a camera part, so why not add an extra challenge?
Yes. So here we are. Let's see, what kind of questions do we have to talk about today?
Well, I thought that I would do just some, fun little questions. First off, things I'm sure everyone wants to know. Do we have a favorite method?
Do I have a favorite method?
Mm-hmm. They say not to pick their favorite children, but, you know, at this point, there are thousands of methods, and we are going to pick one.
It would be easier to pick my least favorite method.
Okay.
But my favorite method, let's see, do you have yours all picked out? Or are you using my popcorn too?
So as far as a favorite method, as I find that little ones are kind of funny. So paint filter, and the whole method is a paragraph, and yet it's almost always wrong in any lab I go to. Same with settleable solids. Again, it's a short little paragraph. Anyone can read it, and then they choose to not to. So
exactly.
I kind of like those.
A lot of those wet chem methods are not hard, but it's amazing how often we find things that are done wrong in them. I don't know that they're my favorite. I would say probably anions is one of my favorites.
Anions is a good one.
Yeah,
Like
it's kind of that place between fully automated. I mean, there's instruments out now that will fully automate. You just have to, plug it, hand it samples, and and your standards, their reagents, and it's all done for you. But it's somewhere between fully hands-on and fully automated. And so it's an instrument, it gives you printouts, it gives you the information, but it's pretty stable in most of the instruments that we've seen. So I kind of like that.
That's true. Anions is a good one, and I always forget about it because it is just so stable and such a good method that can do a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you mentioned. Sorry, go ahead.
Those instruments can also be used for things like perchlorate and hexachrome, and so you can use that same instrument. Most labs that we've been in, they haven't used the exact same instrument for the multiple different things. And analyses, they have a dedicated instrument for perchlorate and a dedicated instrument for hexachrome and a dedicated instrument for all the anions. But it's the same instrument. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
You would have three instruments that do those three things.
Yes. The same technology.
Right. So that's kind of cool.
That is really cool. You mentioned before it's easier to pick a least favorite.
Ooh.
So,
Well, it is not a secret that my least favorite is BOD. I work really hard on not having to assess BOD, partially because I don't think you're getting real valid information from that test. I think it's like a made-up test from, when did we decide? 18? And what? So does it really tell you what's happening in the system? And so because I don't feel like it's giving you
real data from BOD.
Yeah, I don't think you get, well, you get data, you get something, but I don't think it's helpful. But that's just my opinion. Somebody somewhere likes it and requires it, so lots of labs are doing it. What is your least favorite method?
TKN.
Oh my gosh, that one sticks so bad.
I don't like it because it is prescriptive, but also interpretive and so many steps. And no matter how many times I read it, no matter how many times I've observed someone doing it, I cannot get all of the steps in the right order to stick in my brain. And so anytime I see that TKN is on the schedule, I will almost always give it away to someone else to do. Because I am wonderful.
It's great when we go in as pairs or triplets or whatever, multiple assessors to do a single assessment, because we can do that. We can help each other. We can pass off the things that we're not as, shall we say, good at or not as competent in. I mean, we pass the test to be competent in just chemistry and in microbiology and stuff. So we can do all these tests, but rarely are we tested on, are we forced to prove every method that we assess. I'm hearing that some ABs are starting to move that way. I don't like it or think that that's appropriate, but the ABs can do what ABs want to do.
They're allowed. It just means that I may not be working for them as much. Because I can prove that I can read a method and then follow it and have everyone make sure that we're following it. Very rarely is it the actual method part that people get wrong. A lot of the times, it's the quality portions that you can skip right past because it's in a completely different chapter or in a completely different book. And those are the things I think that really help our data stand out, in that it is defensible. We've thought about all of these different portions that go along with it, not just the result at the end.
Right. We make sure that it's trustworthy data that can be used by other people.
Yeah.
So
that's the job. Not you to be scared.
Yeah.
At the very least, that's the goal.
Yes. So that's an interesting conversation about least favorite or most favorite, least favorite methods. Those are fun.
Absolutely. I was saying earlier when I was getting my camera and microphone and all the things set up that this reminds me of pandemic era assessment. Whoa, man, what a weird time to be an assessor.
It was a weird time to do much of anything. To be fair, we as assessors working in environmental laboratories still had a job. during the pandemic because it was certainly a required activity. We still wanted to be testing drinking water and wastewater and different things to make sure that we were as safe as we could be. And so, therefore, laboratories were, what was the word? Anyway, and so assessors also had to go in and assess them to make sure that they were doing things correctly or close to correctly. So, but I was not a fan of doing that remotely. Most of the time, I still traveled, but there were a few places and times when I had to do a remote assessment, and I don't think that they got as good of an assessment. I think that I missed stuff. I'd have to because I only had a window this big into whatever they were choosing to show me. And they might have been choosing not to show me the things I would have noticed when I was on site. Like, unless we're doing a DOE assessment, we don't call out OSHA things. But I've learned a few of the OSHA things, and they still give me the heebie-jeebies when, I see the air cylinders that are not chained tied down. Like them being able to run free, that sort of thing. And when you're doing a remote assessment, they're not going to say, oh, and look, here's our tanks that are not tied down, and here's our, the fire hazards are all stored in the same place, and it's a cardboard box, or, whatever. So when we're just walking through on a tour, I love doing the tour. It gives me an idea of, what's where and which direction to go for places, for things, but it gives me an opportunity to just see how the lab works. How messy are the benches? How are people in their comfort zone? Are they all sitting at a desk? Are they all on top of each other? How does that work? So the tours of laboratories are also very important for more than just finding our way around. Although it's always good to know where the coffee's made.
True. Like me, I do love knowing where my coffee is going to be coming from because I run on caffeine, 100%. But yeah, the other thing that kind of annoyed me about a virtual assessment when we would do them is they could just mute themselves to talk to each other and exclude me, which, is a little suspicious, not gonna lie. I want to be included on these conversations, and if something's a problem, let me know. I get it. We don't necessarily want any findings, but I am ultimately here to help. So, yeah.
That really works. Well, the cameras were like going on a roller coaster ride from one area of the lab to another, because it was like a few of the assessor or quality managers or whoever was holding the camera would say, okay, I'm going to put you down now, and put the camera flat against a surface and walk through the lab so that at least this side of the video wasn't going up and down and around and stuff. So, but not all of them did that. And also there was the connectivity. Some back corners of the lab did not have connectivity. So there's a room back there. We receive samples in it. Sorry. We can't go there.
Yeah. I had to be wired in for one to Ethernet to go into the lab itself, because the only place where they had reliable Wi-Fi otherwise was in the quality manager's office. So it was 5 people crammed into this office so that we could do an audit. But anytime that we went into the laboratory, because I want to see that you have a machine and it does things like turn on, wild, I know. But
We're picky like that.
we're like, okay, well, give us a second. We need to hardwire you in. And I'm like, okay,
I'm not sure.
I guess we'll have a break. See you in 15 while you figure out the Ethernet situation.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
But I did, so that particular lab, I did actually get to go visit in person, and they are legit in the middle of nowhere. So I'm impressed that they got any Wi-Fi at all. Like,
Okay, so they were able to make it work.
they made it work. And I actually was like, hey, next time we are doing an audit, let's just do it virtual, because it's an hour and a half back to the hotel and like 3 hours to the nearest airport.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the fun of doing assessments is getting to the laboratories or from the laboratories. Yeah, I think it was last week, Mike and I ended up having to, we had scheduled a 2-day lab, which is 4-man days, so 2 people, 2 days. And we found out that it was going to be an hour and a half to the airport. So, and we needed to be there an hour before the flight, so we had to leave 2.5 hours. But, I mean, we had scheduled a 7 o'clock flight. Whatever it was. We ended up having to leave by 3:30 at the latest, and so that just put us in a time crunch, which meant that we stayed late the night before, we got in early, 2 exhausting days to be able to do the 2-day assessment and get out that day. Otherwise, it would be spend the night again.
Yep. I understand that.
Yep, that's part of the fun assessment traveling. Assessor, part of the job.
It is a part of the job, and it takes up a lot of my logistical brain. Like, anytime people are like, "Hey, we want to go on vacation to here," I'm like, "Okay, great. Let me know days, and I'll make it work." And then a lot of times I get the questions of, "Okay, well, which airline should we go? Where should we go? How should we do this? Like, what hotel? Blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, do you want me to plan this? Because I plan these things all the time. I could do it. So let me know what you want out of it.
Exactly. What is your intent for this? So,
and it stresses about my husband to no end when I'm like, "Oh, well, we just need to leave for the airport at noon," and he's like, "But we like fly out at like 1:30." I'm like, so we'll have time to do this. So like, we have time to drive there, this much time to park, this much time to get through security, this much time for our bathroom break, and then we walk directly onto the plane. And he's one of those people that wants to be there 2 hours ahead of time. I'm like, absolutely not.
That's true. When you travel a ton, then you get more laid back about it. I mean, right? So when we started out, granted we were traveling with your mother, and she was always a 2-3 hour ahead of time thing. But but we have moved on from that. We've gotten to where we got tired of sitting in the airport for an hour and a half, just looking at our phones or people, people watching is kind of cool, but it also is very boring. And I'd rather be at home reading my book or whatever.
Doing something productive. I could have done the dishes in this time.
I could have. That is true. It doesn't happen.
They don't need to know.
Yes.
Let's take a quick break to thank our sponsors for this episode, if we have any. It's also a point for us to check the recording to make sure that it's all going well. Anyway, see you in a little bit.